great.
I'm looking at the spread that has overt kill, and I just thought, I love this job.
Yeah. Oh, brother, I love this job.
Yes.
Oh my God.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. No matter if you're dead or alive or a fake body and you have a Letha K7 suit all over your body.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, without
Or a part of the army of evil,
yes.
you know?
So today, we travel to the many circles of hell with Todd McFarlane, legendary comic book character Spawn, aligning ourselves with the highly anticipated issue 300, which still, by this point of recording, hasn't been announced when. We're going to talk about...
But that will mark it as the longest running independent
comic book ever.
Wow.
So,
Take that, Stanley. Anyways, volume one...
Kick a guy when he's dead.
Oh
That's
my
good.
God.
Okay, Jack Kirby. Oh, he's also dead. We're going to talk about volume one, which is the first issue of the titular hero's origin, Spawn. So it's a trade paperback, and we're doing issue 1 through 6 of volume 1 Spawn. But that's the topic of the day, the marquee on the building.
Yes,
Let's introduce the hosts. I am Tom.
Ali.
Caitlin.
I'm Corey.
and I am Josh, and this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation, which is powered by Patreon. If you are new to what Patreon or the Nerd On Nation is essentially a exclusive membership program in which you can support your favorite creators, like, I don't know, Nerd On. That would be awesome. And each month you get special exclusives, exclusive episodes, a Discord server, which is hopping all the time, from gardening to comic books. You can talk about it all. But yeah, check it out. There's a lot more rewards, but we want to get into the discussion.
Yeah.
So check it out, nerdon.io/Patreon.
And of course, we are going to be spoiling this episode, but if you don't want it spoiled and would rather read it first, we have an exciting new sponsor, COMIXOLOgy.
Oh, yes,
Yes, we do.
And we've got some fancy deals for you. We'll talk about that more at the end of the show.
That's easy to check out, actually. nerdon.io/COMIXOLOgy takes you right to COMIXOLOgy, and so you know, a little bit of every purchase goes to us.
Helping
To
us out.
funding. Getting new gears and new lights.
So while you're prepping for Spawn 300, reading all those comic books, getting up to speed, then you're also helping us get up to speed with our bills every month.
And we can talk comics together.
So, this is a completed subject. It's 6 issues. It's
It
a volume
is.
one.
It's a volume.
It's a collection.
It's a collection.
right?
Yeah.
So this is supposed to be getting us into Spawn. So
I mean, keeping in mind Spawn is a continuous
it's
thing.
a continuous thing. But these 6 issues are volume one.
Yeah.
So we allows us to rate at the end, which allows us to
Guess that grump.
Dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun,
He
dun,
is
dun,
Spawn.
Spawn. Everyone at home, if this is the first time you're listening to this or watching, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, Guess That Grump is a segment of our show where we're going to now figure out who's going to have the lowest rating out of all of us. It's 1 out of 5, and whoever's the lowest in the group is the Grump of the Week. And we encourage everyone at home to play along and send us what you thought of the volume one, what you thought of the thing that we're going to rate, and who you thought would have been the Grump. With that, since I never explain, I want to say that Corey goes first.
Yeah, I got this. So actually, beyond the movie, I wasn't as familiar with Spawn before this. It's just one of the
Are you
ones
doing initial reactions or Guess That Grump?
I missed. So my guess. Guys, I drove 9 hours to get here today. No big deal.
Also with a head injury.
I did. If
got
those of you watching video can see, I might have a concussion. We'll find out. We'll see.
Oh boy.
My guess will be.
Lowest in the group.
Oh,
It's a tough one.
this is tough. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Ali, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to feed into that. I
That's
didn't mean to
okay.
feed into
I'm
it.
not offended.
That's not what I'm. Anyway,
I
that's okay.
say it's going to be Josh.
You
Ooh.
one dumb, some bring a nap to a gunfight.
I don't know nothing about
feel like I'm
what everyone
50-50.
thinks about this.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm.
So
right?
one
How many have we
on
done?
Ollie, one on Josh. Josh, your vote is who's going to be the lowest of the week?
The lowest of the group, I think. I'm trying not to pigeonhole you, but I do legitimately think that it will be you, Ollie.
Okay.
Okay?
Again, it's cool.
We're having a conversation. That's the way I would say that.
Ollie,
I
what
don't
is your
mind being the
vote?
grump.
Golly.
Their opinions, man. It's just like your opinion, man.
So who do you think is going to be the grump?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Caitlin.
Okay.
And me,
Yeah.
I guess it's going to be Ali.
Okay.
All right.
So we have 3 on Ali,
3
1
on
on Josh,
me.
and 1 on me.
And according to our Patreon,
Oh,
who
yes.
get to vote, Caitlin, you have the
Oh.
most votes.
Wow.
Who's second place?
Well, there are a lot of moles.
You
in
and
this.
Josh
Okay.
are both second place. Tom and I didn't get any votes.
Yeah, because we like comic books. So with that being said and done, everyone, we're going to our initial reactions, aka first impressions.
Let me go first.
Okay, good.
Which is the
Yeah.
complete spoiler of our last segment. So Corey, go on.
I'm very familiar with Spawn. It's one of my no, seriously. I wasn't until we read this. I had watched the movie a lot growing up with John Leguizamo and everyone. I thought
As
it was
we all did.
super fun.
Yeah.
So getting to read this and getting to see where it started. I was also familiar with here and there. He was in some video games that I played as well.
Soul
Soul
Calibur.
Calibur.
Xbox.
Beyond that, I was familiar with Todd McFarlane's other stuff, like his Alice in Wonderland series. So I know he's got a very unique style, and it was really cool to see that brought to life in a narrative for me, because it's the first Todd McFarlane narrative I've read. And so I approached it very open, and I was pleasantly surprised with all of it. It was really unique and really refreshing to read something like this.
Image tends to do that.
Yeah.
Image isn't like, oh, it's Coke and
But I mean,
Pepsi.
I've read Image before,
Yeah.
and like, yes, like you're saying,
But it's
there
a
was
superhero genre in Image.
There was something really unique about the framing of the storyboards and or the panels and
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
yeah,
to
we'll
be
get
said
into
about
that. But like that's what I'm talking about. His style, because he draws it and writes it. I mean, hey, we'll get into it.
I'll go next. I love Spawn.
That's why I never would have chosen
Spawn
Tom.
is the Edgelord Supreme. He was the Edgelord before all Edgelords. Like, what's the full Reaper from Overwatch?
Reaper.
Took it from his school. Fucking Cloud took it from. No, Cloud's older than him. But everyone after is like Red King. But also, if you look at him, his design is pretty much Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man combined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
bit of
Batman
Venom.
motify.
Yeah,
But yeah, I same thing.
he's got that big bat energy.
One game, I know. One game that I really loved playing was Spawn Armageddon for GameCube.
Oh, dang.
And it's pretty much like a
Yeah.
third-person overhead shooter. And you're just pretty much getting different weapons.
My
to-
buddy Nate, shout out to Nate. He played that a lot.
you pretty much like get to the point where you're just having like hell weapons and also then angelic weapons, which are freaking dope. I've been with the character for I think a really long time, and shout out to Mr. David Barry from the Capes Crusaders. It was
Shout
actually one of
out.
the first things that we like bonded on was like Spawn.
Aw.
And I have a lot of respect for Todd McFarlane as a creator and writer for Spawn.
Mm-hmm.
And that Spawn has been since the beginning of Image Comics, and Image has continued on since then, but is actually the opposite of what all Image Comics is
There's
nowadays.
we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah.
into this later, but there's a lot that Spawn has done for comic industry, toy industry,
Movie industry.
superheroes in general.
Yeah.
We'll get into it later. It's fun.
Wow.
And TV.
MTV, yeah.
Josh, Kaylin, or Ollie?
I didn't have a whole lot of experience with Spawn growing up. Shout out to my buddy Dennis, who's a big fan of Spawn. I think anything I've seen has been from him. And what I've seen, like just little bits and pieces from comics, have been pretty awesome. I saw the movie a lot, so that was kind of like
Yeah.
the most. That's where I
1997.
like learned his story, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good movie for its time and for what it achieved or whatever. As far as like telling the story of Spawn, I think it did a pretty okay job.
I remember
But-
hearing some story about how long it took to like render the cape.
Oh yeah,
in the day.
yeah. But it was cool getting that kind of on the page and seeing kind of where it all started.
Mhm.
And I have kind of like some behind the scenes respect for Todd McFarlane for like doing that
Yeah.
and like branching out and all that. But we'll talk about that, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a fun read and it was a cool story.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
Kaylin.
Nice.
This was the
Ooh.
first time I had ever experienced Spawn at all.
Mm.
I only knew the name before I read this. And
Yeah, Spawn Ranch.
Have
Yeah.
Spawn.
not quite.
Yeah.
have you seen
Um,
like anything of him, like his cape and like images or pictures?
No,
Okay.
like all
This I
I
haven't
knew is that Spawn was a comic book character that existed, and there was a period of time where I had never really read many comics, so a lot of them looked really similar to
You're
me.
welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
No,
It's
that's
all
from
to
Nerd
do
On.
to you.
From Nerd On.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nerd On.
But so reading this was like my brain was trying to choose any type of pattern it could from other things. And I was like, who is this Batman Venom dude?
Yeah.
And like, but as things went on, I was like, oh, you got your own little spin, don't you?
Yeah.
He's black.
Yeah, he's black. That was crazy.
Big deal.
And I,
It's a big deal.
Still
but
is.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the first thing I was thinking about. It was when it was like very obvious that he's like a black man, and then he's like, I'm a black man, being a white man is the worst. And I was like, whoa, this
Hell
came out
yeah.
when? Because like I feel as though when I grew up in white bread Southern Indiana.
Sweet
like
Christmas.
there was not anything like this that I knew of. A lot
Yeah.
of things were
Yeah.
ultra white. So I just wonder what it was like to be a kid of color in this time and have Spawn come out. Like that's the first thing my brain started thinking about. I was
Yeah.
like, hot damn, what kind of
I mean, that's
how did
why
this shake things up?
that's why they
1992.
kind of broke off, right? Is he wanted to do stuff that like Marvel or DC were restricting them,
Yeah.
him and like everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he also said that there weren't enough interesting black superheroes.
Right.
And he was like, I'm going to do that.
And I also really like the character of Al Simmons. Like I was actually invested in what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like I didn't care as much about like his abilities and stuff. I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen to Al?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen to all of his friends? Like I got really invested in what was happening rather than his cool abilities or whatever. They were
Right.
cool, but it was more like an
They get
aside.
better.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that they do.
Way
But,
Oh my God.
But in this, just this volume 1, it was so cool to be invested in the storyline more than the capabilities that he has. For me.
Josh,
Josh?
So
you're welcome, Josh.
this was thrown onto the table because I had said that this is one of my favorite comic books.
Oh, well, fuck. I chose wrong.
Walking Dead, Preacher, and Spawn are probably
Look at
my
this.
favorant comics.
Spawn of the Dead. It's Walking Dead and Spawn.
Oh, okay. All
It's
right.
like the perfect gift.
Spawn versus Batman. I mean, anyway.
That makes me think Ali, not whatever. I tried. I chose.
No, this is a fun story that we can't get to yet because it's in another
That's how
volume.
you get me to read Spawn.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Throw
We'll
Batman
get
in
there.
it.
But when I didn't get into Spawn for a pretty long time. Like my first impressions or my first interaction with Spawn was the 1997 movie. And then,
As you do.
yeah, as you do. And
On
then
Machine, baby.
probably a few years ago, I started using COMIXOLOGY and it came out.
And you
There
came
was some
too.
sort of ad. There's some sort of ad on the homepage. And I was like, you know what? I have always wanted to. Oh, I know why. I was reading Punisher. And he has a storyline that he did for
Yeah, I can see
Punisher.
the two of
And
them
I was like, you know what? I really
being
dig
pretty
this.
Similar.
Very similar.
And I've always been interested in Spawn. I'm going to read this. And it was one of those things that I was like, okay, I'll buy the next one.
Yeah. Not
Okay,
that,
I'll
not
buy the
that their
next one.
stories are similar, but those,
No.
those characters are pretty like broody.
Max.
Yeah.
wise.
But no,
Same
I just,
vibe.
Corrupt City, et cetera, et cetera.
I dig every single thing about Spawn. I have a couple of qualms, but pretty much anything that has to do with Spawn, like every cell, every page spread, I'm like,
Every orifice.
every orifice, like even when he has his mask on. I mean, there's later
Yeah.
volumes that there are some pages that I just want to print out and put on the wall. They're just so dope.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, even in this, I know there's more. I've beyond this, I've just checked out a few more frames just for research sake, and like there are some really cool spreads in
yeah.
the future.
What issue are you on currently right now, Josh?
I honestly don't remember. I know that I'm on volume 6.
Is it like around the 90s, 100s?
I don't know, but I can look because I have it.
dig-
I have it here.
I've never seen this costume on him.
Really?
Obviously, it's the original, but
What do you mean?
it's always been like all black or something. I feel.
It's always
No?
black, white, and red.
I guess I never appreciated it.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was cool getting that.
You're welcome, Ollie.
I mean,
I
if you
guess I
don't
never
read it, it's
appreciated
easy
that.
to not
yeah.
know.
In my head, I'm just like, oh, you're just like wearing all black. Was it in the movies all black, or was it also red?
It was
gloves?
very dark.
It was really
Well,
dark.
the white was just gray, like the
Gray.
The,
Yeah.
it's like someone
but
put
with all the red on the front and all that.
it had the cape, and then it,
Yeah.
he,
No,
did,
but it-
he didn't have the rings, and he didn't have red gloves.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was
yeah.
cool
Knuckles?
seeing that and like the red on his
He didn't have-
on the front.
Okay.
Yeah, I just Spawn.
Right, because most of it was the movies. That's the
Spawny.
costume.
Yeah,
you knew.
yeah. So I was like,
it's
this is a kind of a neat costume.
It's super muted in the movie.
Yeah,
except
this
for
is
the
a
cape,
really cool
obviously.
costume, and I loved seeing every time he was like in a different pose.
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. It was cool. All the artwork.
So, everyone, that kind of lets everyone know what we think of the Grumps and who was really wrong.
So
Grumps.
so
Caitlin,
wrong. Super
She
wrong.
literally
Wrong.
wrote worst idea ever next
Next
to
to
her
my guess.
So now
You
you guys
know.
all get that. But now we're going to go into the synopsis and as well as the production. Then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of
Meat
the
and
show.
productions.
Meat and production of the show. That's my
And the
favorite. thing.
potatoes.
Potatoes.
Protein
Boil
potatoes.
them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
But then we'll also do a little bit of the lore. So, brief synopsis. So, it's volume 1 through 6. It's the origin story of Spawn. Al Simmons wakes up in an alley and you kind of flash back between 1987 and 1992. So, there's a 5-year gap. And we're going to just ram all this in really quick so we can talk about the actual comic book. He finds out that he was murdered and that he made a deal with Malebolgia, a hell demon devil of the 8th circle of hell, to become this leader of his army of hell spawns in order to see his wife Wanda again. And his guardian angel, quote unquote, is the Violator, which is the clown that we all remember from John Leguizamo. But when he goes to visit Wanda, he realizes that his entire life was turned upside down, that he was impotent, he couldn't have a kid, and that someone else...
Everything he knew was wrong.
Yeah, someone else became the husband of Wanda. She moved on, and that's all he wanted. So it's kind of like, again, it's a cautionary tale of be careful what you wish for. Like, you'll get what you want, but just not the way you think it.
Yeah.
There's a climactic moment where Malebolgia says, hey, you, the Violator, and Hellspawn can't be fighting like this anymore. And Violator's man's like, I should be the one leading your army because I was born in hell, not like this little human half-breed. And then later on we get after that, those 3-4 issues of kind of exposition of his character, we start going into the monthly issues of like, hey, here's the freak of the week. And then we go on to issue 5, which we have Billy Kincaid, who is a children pedophile and
Child killer,
and gets released multiple times. The system doesn't really do anything, and Spawn kills him and exacts the revenge that we so kind of full-heartedly agree with, because it sucks when the system can't do anything, and that's the response that we get. It's like we want the full-fledged anger. Then we later on get introduced to Overt Kill, and it's a cybernetic giant monster.
It's a great
bruiser.
name, by the way.
Image Comics back in the 90s, very discreet.
That wasn't
Yeah.
facetious at all. I love that name.
No, but that's what they're all about. I mean, Rob Liefeld, who left to join Image Comics, is the one who created Deadpool.
Yeah.
And so it's all that buff, muscly,
Yeah, it's
cable-y, and all that shit.
great.
So they fight, and then, it kind of leads off into the next adventure. And that's 1 through 6.
Yeah.
Dang, that's
Good
a
job.
lot.
Yeah, cool. It was like 10 seconds.
That was like 3 hours.
It was like 3 hours, 10 seconds, and some change.
But the production side,
Production side, it was published by Image Comics. The writer and creator is Todd McFarlane, as we have said a couple of times. The penciler, inker, and stories is also Todd McFarlane. Tard.
So you're going to say Turd
Oh.
I'm
McFarlane?
sorry, my mouth words hard sometimes. Todd McFarlane again. The lettering was Tom Orzechowski.
You got it. Nailed it.
Yes. The color was Steve Olof,
You did it.
Ruben Rude, and Oleoptics. Oleoptics. And the first issue was in May of 1992.
cool. We don't need this anymore.
Wow.
So
Nailed it.
Wow.
Thanks, buddy.
that's the great thing about comic books. The production's really short.
But how will we ever know to end the show at unison with Nerd On?
Well, 102 episodes later, we don't know how to do
Should
it.
do it wrong on purpose. Just
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the lore in it all. So
Yes.
before this point, Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, a bunch of other comic book writers of the early 90s, late 80s were making the top 50 comic books that were sold every month. And they were all working for Marvel.
So they were pretty good.
They were great.
I'm just kidding.
Pretty all
they were
right.
they were like literally the top 10% of the artists and story creators of Marvel Comics. And the way Todd McFarlane explains it, it's like we were the elite. And so we wanted to do stories that we wanted to tell, and we wanted to have 100% of the creation. And by the business standard, if a comic book publisher sold one comic book, a creator would get 25%.
Oh.
Of the sale.
Yeah.
And so they would have to sell, 125,000 to get like any type of thing back. But then when they broke off and made Image Comics, they would get 100%. So they would
Right.
actually have to just do a fourth of those sales that Marvel was doing in order to make the profit.
That's smart.
So they're like, we
Wow.
keep 100%. And Image Comic Books as a company does not keep the characters. Till this day, Image Comic Books doesn't own one character. The creators own the
Re-
characters.
Wow.
And that happens later on in Spawn,
So
where
they get a lot more control.
there's a character named Angela who's from Heaven. The creator left and then moved her over to Marvel, and she's part of Thor's universe.
Wow.
There's a lot of freedom and a lot of great things that happened with Image Comic Books. So with Todd McFarlane took like all these great writers and creators and all that stuff. But like, I think it kind of inadvertently started the comic book bust because people started like not realizing like, because these became celebrity comic books now.
Right.
It's like, oh my God, the best person, Jim Lee, who like had the best run with X-Men, is now doing Wildstorm and stuff like that. And Todd McFarlane, who was like really, really well known to doing like issue 300 of Spider-Man, is now starting his own comic book in Spawn. And the thing what Todd McFarlane really said that he got upset with was that like, he knew he was, at the time, he wasn't the best artist. And he would actually spend a lot of his time learning how to draw just individual pieces, arms, legs, and not
just a
body
lot
parts.
of study.
And he wanted to take liberties with it. We're not doing like a 2x2 where it's like, hey, let's do this block and like lines and all stuff. He wanted to like the character's going to jump off this panel to another panel, and Spider-Man would like whip through other panels and stuff like that. Which we mentioned, like the artwork is kind of crazy because it leaps out of the page.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very when reading it, you almost have to. It's not like anytime you're reading comics, you have to like not take a class, but it's like you have to learn how to read the comic. And this one kind of flips that. Everything that you knew, you have to like situate yourself and go, oh, okay, now I'm going to this panel.
Different creators have a different way of telling stories, and you kind of have to just,
Adjust
get
to
your
that.
palette ready for it.
And there's a lot of things in here, like the clock, the timer counter, which is like 9999, which will go down, is actually his necroplasm like
It's
counter.
how much he uses his power.
Every time, and Malaboja talks about it, says like, hey, like if you run out of it, you die, and then your soul's mine anyway. So that's why Malaboja was like it's a win-win thing. And then by issue like 90 or 100, something like that, they just did away with it.
Oh.
Because
Wrote it out.
it's not like they did away with it, they wrote it out because the way they did it was like he now has all access to the necroplasm instead of like having a
Oh.
limited
He basically
source of it.
becomes invincible. in
But
a sense.
they don't explain it a lot. And the thing is
Little
that
bit.
Todd McFarlane like really had to like go to the sticks with it and like really had to build a foundation to try to understand like how he can make a comic book empire with it. And the tough thing was that like you would get comic book writers and then they would like write something and you had to give him like $1 million
Whoa.
because like that's how much it would sell. And then that writer would like go off and leave. And it was tough keeping a business like that.
Right.
What ended up happening was like he ended up having to make toys. McFarlane toys manufacturing. He ended up going to the
Can
movie
I
industry.
say something real quick about that? So with the toys, which I think is really interesting, is that McFarlane Toys, I mean, he essentially was trying to pitch the Spawn toys and whatnot to all the different like Mattel and all that kind of stuff, but it was too dark. And so it was kind of one of those, again, like Image, like, well, fine, I'll do it myself. And basically revolutionize the action figure industry because it was so hyper realistic. They wanted like really like if action figures used to be very smooth and not very detailed, and like this changed it. They were much more detailed. But anyway, you were going to move on to
Wow.
So the cool thing is that Todd McFarlane actually really looks up to Steve Jobs.
Oh.
And Steve Jobs says that he did nothing. Steve Jobs did nothing. Like we had phones, we had computers, except he said, as Todd McFarlane said, made us sexy.
Yeah.
They makes everything sexy. He's like, all I did with comic books is make it sexy. Like he revolutionized how Spider-Man looked like. He revolutionized how people read comic books, like things leaping off the pages and whatnot. And he's like, I'm not a genius in that way. And so to me, there's a lot of respect because I feel like he's somewhat of a self-made like legend in that sense. Like he never got like a formal job from Marvel. Like he just sent his packets of comic books to like industry people for like years. And he would send 100 packets. And he was like, these are what I can do. And then they finally just gave him a job. But again, leading up to Spawn specifically, he really kind of actually aligns himself as Spawn. He's like, I write who I am as Al Simmons.
embracing that right way, kind of thing.
Yeah. Wanda is the name of his wife.
No.
And he talks about a lot of the 5th issue where Billy Kincaid comes. He's like, if Batman can't stop him, if Superman can't stop him, if all these heroes can't stop him, the system can't stop him, like, and this guy's going to keep hurting kids, then you bet your bottom dollar that me and a couple dads are going to just go to his guy's house, knock on his door, and he'll disappear. And I was like,
jeez,
like it's really real. But like, I don't think he takes any bullshit, which is really cool. That time I do think he's a little interesting. Is an interesting human being. He calls
Eclectic.
he
is
calls
the
his
word
boy
that's often used.
eccentric.
Eclectic.
Eclectic.
Isn't eclectic like everything?
Yeah, eclectic is everything.
Yeah, I know. It's a Midwest thing. That's how you're like they're a little strange, but you don't
I
want to
got
say
it.
strange. You're like eclectic.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, he's like, I call my boy Spawny. That's how he says it. It's like
Spawny?
Spawny. But have you guys watched the HBO show? Like I said,
The series, the animated.
No.
I watched some of it. I
The
watched about
opening-
2 hours.
The opening sequences are just
Oh,
great.
Oh,
we
yeah.
watched that
Where he's
together.
like, Hey, you guys ever go in a place in the dark and you don't know what's happening? That's what Spawn's going to do.
Yeah.
It's just like
he's drawing and then he turns around and goes, "Hi, I'm Todd McFarlane."
creator
And you're
Spawn.
Like, whoa. Yes, you are.
So good. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, hats off to the guy. He's celebrating issue 300, so we can get on with this lore and all this crap and just get right into the comic book.
Let's do it.
Favorite parts?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
My favorite part was the them tearing each other's hearts out and then continuing to fight.
Oh,
And-
Violator.
Yeah, Violator and Spawn. And then having to be stopped and yelled at by Dad.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
There was something about that scene that I really dug. Like it really got me. Like I was laughing out loud reading it, looking at the arms flying across the page and stuff like that. And,
shut up.
yeah, I think that was probably my favorite scene. And you learn a lot about each character in that scene too, which is really cool. So it's not a pointless fight, but it gave you the exact characteristics of both Spawn and the Violator. So I think that that's where I felt like, oh man, he knows what he's doing.
Also, that Malbolgia is also like, but Spawn's my favorite, so you get an arm back.
Yeah,
You can go away.
you're done.
You're done.
He, also in that scene, like I just love that Spawn really establishes himself as a fucking badass.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the Violator's like, I'm not gonna be beaten by some flesh human, and then like Spawn just comes out and he's like, who said anything about being human?
Yeah.
And you're like, and it's a full page spread, and you're like,
Oh shit! Oh shit!
With the flame hands and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Um,
He has a hole in his chest because he was black. And
Yeah. Oh no. We're
I-
there. We're
I-
there with you.
We're there.
I-
It was good.
I really like the kind of seedy, cynical look at the world.
Mhm.
I think it's a little reminiscent of like the Frank Miller writing of like Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like as much, all warts and all, as good as it is, the news segments and like people talking the
Oh,
blocks and shit like that.
yeah.
It really kind of gives you like a sense of like what world you're living in, because it's hard to, I think, justify the sense of it based on the main character. You
Yeah.
kind of have to use at least multiple characters to get an idea. Like, okay, this person thinks this way. Like the Rat City, the people think this way. The upper elite are this people. So it's like it's a
I
shitty
liked
world.
the guy with the mustache who didn't the no bullshit newscaster. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't believe any of this shit.
Oh, the one on I noticed that the channels changed over time.
Yeah.
Like the one lady was always on CNN. The one guy, he was on like 2 and then 99 and 41, I think, as well.
I didn't
Um,
notice.
and then the other guy, the blonde guy, whose character seems to have changed, or his personality seemed to have changed
Might have.
as he came
Yeah,
up.
it
And
might have.
It might be also be a commentary on moving channels and taking on the identity of the channel rather than yourself.
right,
Yeah.
because the first one he was very clean cut, and I think he was on channel 1 or 7. I couldn't tell what that sign was, but then he was on E, like entertainment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he had this like sharp little mustache, and
Yeah.
he talked very flamboyantly. Like it changed a lot. It was
Yeah.
it was just really. I really liked those news segments a lot.
And I think Todd McFarlane's really cognizant of those things. When speaking of that, how you were saying like you lived in like ultra white. If it's not ultra white, it's not ultra right. Anyways, but ultra white neighborhood and all that stuff.
We can cut that out. That's fine.
Yeah, we're not. No, that's not what I said at all.
He would love to go to Texas. He used to go to Texas all the time and talk about Spawn, and all these little kids would be like, "I love Spawn." He's like, "Don't forget, he's a black guy."
No.
And then they're like, "Oh shit, you're right." That's how they literally were. He was like, "Oh yeah," and so he would love that fact because he's like, you have to think about that where like there hasn't been like a leading front man in terms of a black character in comic books for like a while. Like you had Black Panther, you had Luke Cage, you had all these other characters too, but like they were kind of part and parcel to like the Thor and the Iron Man, the Spider-Man, the Batman, and all that stuff. But like Spawn, Image Comics, like boom, that's him, and it's a black man.
Yeah.
Super dope.
My absolute favorite part, and even from what I've read so far, like Medieval Spawn is always going to be my thing, but this part of this volume,
What is
and it's
Medieval
the very-
Spawn?
Medieval Spawn is like, well, because Spawn, there's been different iterations over the course of history of Spawn, and there's a new one, and then there's like a medieval time Spawn, and if you get to see the design of it, you just like, oh, it's so good.
Fine, I'll look it up. Jesus.
But the very last couple of pages of this one, where he's realizing that his power is fading, and he's basically in his fight with Overt Kill used up a lot, and he's like, I'm never going to use my powers again, and I'm really tired of being pushed around. And the last like spread is him holding like these dope machine guns and like rocket launchers, and he just says, "I'm better than that." And it's just that was like I closed the app and I went and bought the next app. I was like, what? This is so good. But
It's just badass to the core.
he's just he's so badass.
Yeah.
Medieval Spawn is dope looking, but he also is a bit reminiscent of Batman when he fights Superman in the armor.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Doesn't he,
like a lot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
And
that.
Witchblade?
Yeah.
yeah. All the dark
Yeah.
I have
stuff.
to read
Ollie, any favorite
that.
parts?
Yeah, I mean it's my favorite is the same that Josh just mentioned, because I think it's like the first time he kind of is kind of showing off his own personality and
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
like his own.
He doesn't
like,
need
I'm-
Spawn to
Yeah.
be himself.
Right. It's
He's
like
like, "Oh, I'm gonna own this shit. Here
it's
we go.
his first part of his old self that he gets to get back, kind of in
Yeah.
a weird way. So and of course the panel just looks incredible.
I mean, what's cool about this. I like these ones is that he is almost the entire time he's having an identity crisis.
Oh yeah.
He's just trying to figure like everything.
Yeah.
The whole reason why he's back on and living, so to speak, is wrong. He can't do anything about. He's got this thing that's going on that like when he turns into a semi-human being, he's a white man.
Yeah.
So and he hates that.
Which
He
actually
doesn't
that
know
was
how
one of
his
my
powers-
favorite parts too.
Yeah.
Just that he's like, I'm white. No.
Yeah.
I mean at the time too, that was still is very poignant to like
Yeah.
erase your identity essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything
Getting
like-
whitewashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literal.
Literally.
So everything about him and like so that when
Yeah.
you get to that he's embracing Al Simmons. And
And I love that whole sequence before where he's like, he must not detect me as living, so I got
Yeah.
away from this. It's just like this cool, clever little twists here and there.
Oh yeah, like he's not detecting no heartbeat or whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with that, you're
Like,
touching
you got
on
some advantages.
Josh. It's like very reminiscent of like Alan Moore writing with like Swamp Thing. It's like you find out that Swamp Thing was never Alec Holland, and Swamp Thing just took the consciousness of him. And then again, when
Spoilers.
Al Simmons,
Actually, yeah. Spoilers.
it's seminal work, and it's like 30 years old.
Fair.
So Spawn, like really has to come to terms with the fact that like he has the memories of Al Simmons, but to the rest of the world, he is no longer Al Simmons.
Right.
He is
Yeah.
Spawn,
Right.
and it's tough. Where it's he came back for one reason, and he can't get what he wants.
in 5 years it's long enough time for people to kind of forget. I mean, except for the obvious people like Wanda, but like
To move on.
To move
Not
on and,
forget,
like-
But yeah.
to like, oh yeah, that guy. So it's like
Yeah, and I like that
embracing that point.
that he kind of like is like good for her. Like she did the right thing. Like he's kind of like
And his
understanding.
best friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this is the best scenario that the best outcome
She's
that I
happy
could have
and
had.
that's what I want.
And yeah,
Yeah. It's
I-
heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
it's a very there's a very real thing to have to come to terms with.
yeah,
Like it's not just like I have to deal with all these superheroes. All my parents were killed and I'm by myself now. But like, okay, my wife thought I was dead. I was dead. Moved on. My best friend and her fell in love. They have a child now. Let me deal with.
Do
how
I
How do I
intervene?
deal with that? Yeah.
Do I
Because
stay in
and
the
then
shadows?
seeing her happy, and he was like, it was me. I couldn't give her the one thing that she wanted, and you know what? No, she has it. I got to be the bigger person here. Well, not human, but yeah, bigger person here, and kind of walk away. And
Yeah.
that's for the one thing he came back for.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
Oh, it's so painful.
he's not gonna let him get away with it. Like that's like fueling the rage.
yeah,
Also like it's power set. Like it's like super. It's like not metagene like, but they call it magic. It's the Magic Man and stuff like that, and that's what you'll get later on noted in the comic books. But it's like to me it's not magic because to me demonic powers is different than magic. I don't know why, but it's like it's kind of interesting just to read it out there. And the one thing I really like, I think it's actually because of the way Todd McFarlane had written this whole thing. I don't think he wrote it to be like, this is 6 issues and done, 6 issues and done, 6 issues and done. He wrote it's like, I have to tell this story of Spawn for like 10 years. And once I'm done, then I'll be able to move on to things. He's still writing it now.
Right.
But it's, you get 4 issues in, and that's kind of like the whole arc for like the introduction. And then 2 more like, this is what you'll expect from the rest of the Spawn like comic books. I haven't read a lot of it, but like it felt in that sense where it's like, okay, cool. Now to the next one. Now to the next person in a good way. A lot of times where it's like, if those issues are so disconnected, it feels like nothing matters. Nothing matters. It's just a villain. He's going to beat him or not beat him. But it's like this kind of like, okay, cool. This is like the serious stuff he's going to deal with, or like the overtly insane stuff he's going to
Well,
deal
it's all
with.
threaded through. Like you still get, you know, you get a little piece of his backstory every time with every person he faces.
Yeah.
He realizes his
He
advantage
learns
against
some,
them.
more
you
about
know.
himself and in the new life that he's living.
That's
Living.
actually another favorite part is him opening up to the homeless community when like they're just trying to get him to like be okay with sitting next to people
Yeah.
because they're all huddling up for warmth. Like just join, like it's okay. And then I forget what that opening line is, but he's like, let me tell you a story about whatever.
Yeah.
And just that little exchange of him like putting down his walls with his new friends was very cool. I like that a lot.
I just have a question for you, Tom, because you usually have a better memory. So later on in the comics, I forget the character's name. He thinks it's God, but it's another Spawn.
Oh, Redeemer.
Who starts to teach him kind of his powers.
Or Cogliostro.
Yeah.
Cogliostro.
I just thought it was so... I started thinking of it kind of like Green Arrow, where he was like, your powers are basically only limited by your imagination, which is...
Green Lantern,
sorry. So it's really interesting, and I just want to give you just kind of a heads up that I really think that you should read it.
Yeah.
Spawn versus Batman.
Oh.
Because what's so funny is like I didn't know that existed
Batman's
until...
in it.
Well, it
Batman's-
actually
yeah.
ties back into Spawn.
No, so at one point between a couple of issues, Spawn all of a sudden had a scar that he tied up with shoelaces.
Whoa.
And
It was shoelaces given to him by Cyan.
And so
Aw.
so you kind of like accept it, and I was like, doop-a-doop-a-doo. And then Tom actually, he was like, well, do you know how he got that?
Do you know how I got this scar?
We were at the gym, and he was like, and I was like, oh, what about that like facial scar? Isn't that funny? And he was like, do you know how he got that? And I just like nerd on like hardcore because it's Batman versus Spawn. Check it out.
Let me give you the self for everyone at home too. The great thing that happens is when Batman's the top of his game, right? Best martial arts fighter and all that stuff.
Martial arts.
Best farter.
But he's
ever.
like a ninja dude, right? He fights. He
farter.
goes toe-to-toe with Superman. He punches Spawn and says, "It feels like I'm punching a wall of bricks." He's like, "This hurts a lot, but I could keep this fight going." And then there's a moment where Spawn says, "I don't know this guy. I need to figure this out." And then they do like a mind meld, and then they see all the horrors that happen in each other's lives.
Whoa.
And then
Damn.
through that enlightenment, and they understand each other. Like, okay, we're on the same side. And there's a great,
But there's a
fucking-
really sassy thing at the end of anyway.
Yeah,
you gotta
that's
read
right.
it.
Don't
It's so,
spoil. We'll read it
it's
later.
so dope.
It's gonna
How long is it? One issue or what?
It's that one right there.
Yeah, it's just this
But
one
is there
little
more?
thing.
Nope.
Okay.
Maybe some more. I don't know, but I don't know if they connect. But
but it's in this one.
for a
Yeah.
future episode.
Todd,
uh,
I know you're watching.
but I was gonna say the great thing with Spawn that I love.
oh my god, it's great because it's just one storyline. It's not like Caitlin, you talked about comic books a while. It's like a fan fiction where like one writer could go on to something else, one writer could do this,
Alternate universes and stuff.
or it's like they have their own adventures. Like Spawn is going. It's like he's the same character. Spoilers, Spawn isn't Spawn the entire time and stuff like that. But it's like Todd McFarlane knowing where he's gonna go with the character,
Yeah.
or not knowing, but
It's like
he's still,
Constantine.
but yeah, he still leads
Yeah.
the character. But it's just one writer.
Yeah, right.
Todd
right.
McFarlane's
That's the
one
only
dude.
difference.
And that's the
Yeah.
really cool thing with it, like with anime, where they get like one person to do a whole run.
Right.
Versus with comic books, like you'll do 6 issues, you do a year of work, you do 100 issues, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And Spawn just goes through. But the thing is, his power level like increases, decreases, increases, decreases. God level decreases, like
Gets his ass handed to him sometimes.
destroys the universe and rewrites it, and then leaves it alone.
And
It's
then
like
gets
so-
beat up by Batman.
What?
Like you find out there's like different circles of hell. You find like the power of the mother.
They play with
versus-
like Dante's Inferno type stuff, like the 9 circles.
Yeah, and each demon or each devil king, whatever, has more powers.
someone they
in it.
answer to.
Like
and-
Malabolgia, you'll find out it's like the reason why he has control over Spawn is because his realm controls the necroplasm.
Got it.
But Malabolgia himself like defeated his predecessor to gain control of it. And there's
Right.
like stuff that happens with
But
Cogliostro.
I'm sure he still answers to someone else. And
Well, there's different
Yeah, right.
kings.
Levels
that
That's
are
what I mean,
stronger. I don't think they're like 7 kingdoms.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like they're all different kings.
it's not
of hell.
like
there is Satan for sure.
because like in Dante's Inferno, you go deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
There's no like level
Right.
to it. It's just different.
Yeah.
There's different kingdoms and all stuff. And
Gotcha.
and some kings are more powerful than the other ones. But then like Spawn becomes like God Spawn or Heaven Spawn or something like that. It's like these a bunch of all this stuff, different stuff. And like the more characters you'll find, like how Heaven gets involved, and like what Josh was talking about, like the Redeemer is pretty much an angel version of Spawn. But like
Damn.
instead of
Another
that,
dope
he has
version.
Like, he has like a thing over his face that looks like a cross, right? But then there's like spikes coming out of it. and like he'll have golden wings and a blue suit. It's like super dope.
That's
and then
dope.
who you find out is it? It's really cool. Who is the really
Anyway, so my other favorite part, since that's what we're talking about, is I can't remember the other guy's name, but I remember Twitch and like the detective,
Oh yeah.
because he
Yeah.
always just calls him
Yeah.
Sir. So I have trouble. Did they ever say his name?
They
I
have a couple
think
comic books
so.
out.
Someone might have
But anyway,
called him out.
any reaction between or interaction between the two of them,
Sam Burke.
yeah, thank you. Between Burke and Twitch was amazing. Twitch, giving him the side, like, if you ever came over for dinner to meet the family. But anyway, sir,
He has like 8 kids.
yeah.
I know.
Anytime the two of them were on the page, I was like, yes, I
I
love
know.
this shit.
They were wonderful.
That's who-
Twitch. Yeah.
That's who
Twitch
Jeremy
is
Renner's going to play. Twitch.
Really
Mhm.
dope. I dig
Nice.
that.
It'll be interesting to see like how he
That's a
plays
very different. Yeah, that's. Okay, yeah.
it. Yeah. But I mean also tag, right?
Yeah.
So
We'll see. But yeah, the two of them, I loved, and also like Burke is kind of like a piece of shit, but he kind of also wants to just do the right thing and make sure that
Yeah.
that like the system is failing. So like Twitch finds the loophole in the system to go on stakeouts, and we'll just happen to be in his neighborhood and kind of thing. And
And he's a sharpshooter.
yeah, and he's kind of like Gordon, but like you said, this is kind of more like a Frank Miller, where warts and all, right? So he's trying to do things by the book and be in charge, but also how do I balance that with stopping this? And they have that moment where they find Kincaid, and he's like, oh shit. I mean, I guess it's good that it happened, but at the same time, who did this?
Right.
So
put a popsicle in his mouth.
yeah, I would love to. I'm definitely after this reading more Spawn, and I'm excited to see more of them
And-
for sure.
And everyone at home who hasn't watched the animated HBO, just imagine Keith David's voice. Goliath from The
Yeah.
Thing. It's so good.
The Arbiter.
Arbiter. Oh,
Yeah,
He
baby.
just has a
Uh,
great voice.
But also, oh man. if they
Also,
did-
just go watch The Thing. He's Childs.
if he's the thing at the end. Okay. But just imagine like a now running animated series with that
Yeah.
and Keith David voice. Oh, he's so good. So good.
Any other favorite parts?
No.
No, I think
Okay.
I'm good. I mean, I could definitely find more.
Honestly, I really this is just me. I really like the violence, the gore, the sexual innuendo, like all the fucking rated R shit that your mom and dad was like,
Yeah.
"Don't look
I
at
will say
that."
it's very 1990s.
Yeah, but it's like Escape from New York.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you can tell it was definitely like let's shake some shit up in this comic business. Let's push some boundaries. Let's show people that we can tell in depth and almost kind of like uncomfortable stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really and do it well. And there's no, we don't have to limit ourselves.
And that I don't know why I keep harking back to the animated series, but it was on HBO. It wasn't on Fox
Yeah.
Kids or Warner
Right.
Brothers. It was on HBO, and it had
Yeah.
every single warning you could have, like
Yeah.
explicit violence, drugs, graphic nudity, all that shit. For an animated show that never ever happened. It was like the first animated show to ever have that.
Yeah.
And it's like it kind of tells that comparing one to the other, the animated show does way better than the movie in terms
Before-
of adapting this.
Before we move on from favorite parts, I also just want to give a shout out to the Violator because, again, anytime he's on the page, I'm loving it. And like I said, I had seen the movie a bunch, but not the comics. And when I read it, I was just picturing John Leguizamo the whole time, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, he fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
perfect. It's perfect casting.
Yeah.
I think he's hilarious. He's terrifying,
Mm-hmm.
but he's also probably one of the funnier parts of the entire comic as well. Like, it's a hard balance.
His character grows later. It's pretty.
Oh,
it's,
I'm
it's
sure.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I love
That's not a character you just go, okay, we're done with you.
I love the design of the Violator.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I absolutely
Wait,
love
monster form or human
monster
form?
form.
I
Monster
like
form.
both.
I really like just really terrible anatomically, like
His long
arms,
underbite.
long jaw,
Kind of like a arch.
yeah, like
I like both because you also have that don't judge a book by its cover thing. Like,
well, it's Tweedledee, Tweedledum looking.
yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you first see him, you're like, am I supposed to be intimidated by this like 2-foot clown? No. But then he turns into a thing that rips people's hearts out with no
Yeah.
problem. So it's like it's a nice little like, okay, I'm gonna introduce this character, and at first you're gonna think he's pretty much nothing, but then guess what? He's like Spawn's nemesis. So
I
loved
like that
it.
he had a cat friend.
Yeah.
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 What do you think, Mr. Pussy?
yeah.
I have to not let something pass. I saw your reaction when he mentioned Escape from New York. Have you seen that movie?
No.
No, we're
See
gonna
it.
do it. We're gonna
So
do
we're
it.
gonna move forward.
I've seen
Okay.
it.
I just need
John
to say,
Carpenter.
see it.
Uh,
So
Okay.
So favorite
See it with me.
character other than Spawn?
Twitch.
Twitch, actually. That was, yep.
good.
okay.
Mine would be Twitch.
Nice.
Favorite what?
Character
Other than Spawn.
other than Spawn.
Other than Spawn?
or Violator. I mean,
I think
hard not
I
to
like
him.
Violator more.
I was gonna say Violator. Violator's
Yeah.
my favorite character.
Yeah.
I don't know. Although I do like Malabogia a lot
Yeah.
because he's so I loved his very like 90s plot of like your soul is mine, you're gonna do what I want, and also if you don't do it, you still do what I want.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that's
catch-22.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
He's a smart cookie.
I don't know. There's just something about Twitch coming through all the time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh yeah, let's use my child as bait. My wife would kill me, but we're doing it."
That was ridiculous.
Yeah. Loved it.
And oh yeah, I was thinking about
I mean,
doing a stakeout.
They're all good characters. I don't
Yeah.
think there was a weak character in this, to be honest. There was no one whenever they came on screen. I was like, "Ugh,
Right.
okay, we can do it
Useless.
again." Yeah. So
Yeah.
Overt Kill was also great.
Just
It's
the name.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude.
And also
name.
metal.
When I saw the
arms
name and how he was drawn, I was like, this is gonna be fucking great.
and that's what I mean.
They're
that's,
just gonna ham fist it to you, like
in
here he is.
in the way we can kind of
He's not wearing hockey pads.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. In the way we can kind of frame it, it's like I really imagine like reading it almost in the same mindset you would imagine a George Miller Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
Like in terms of
The
the
high octane action where it's like dun 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 dun, like a fucking flame guitar playing in the background.
I would want him voiced by Randy Macho Man Savage, 100%.
Oh my God.
Overkill, yeah.
You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, 100%.
minutes.
That's all I want. I just want him voicing that guy.
Oh.
oh yeah.
Right?
He thought about
Yeah,
it.
I'm not gonna be able to like
Wouldn't
let
it be great?
I'm looking at the spread that has Overt Kill, and I'm like, and I just thought, I love this job.
Yeah.
Oh brother, I love this job.
yes.
Oh my God.
Rip.
Aw.
But now it's going to be Jason Momoa.
No,
Oh.
it's not the same. Not the
Oh.
same.
It's not the same,
What?
but he would just do
No,
like
he's too charismatic. Can't
Yeah.
be. It's gotta be a different type
Ran,
of charisma.
Dave
Macho Man,
Bautista.
Randy Savage.
different.
is
It's a different type of charisma. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
He's
it
a
really is.
showman in a different way. That's it.
Yeah.
Batista.
So qualms?
But no, you couldn't see him. He's invisible when he doesn't move. Anyway, so qualms now.
Call me
Yeah.
qualms.
I'm gonna save. I'm gonna save mine. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I don't. Go ahead.
You don't have any?
I can kick us off.
Yeah, go ahead.
You kick
Do
it
it.
off.
I want to go last.
I'm kind of torn on this one because it's hard for me to even really see it as a qualm, really. But I was hoping to get a bit more Spawn action, I guess, in the first 6 to kind of to help hook.
For sure.
But at the same time, I enjoyed it, like hearing.
It didn't
and-
take away. You were
It
just
didn't
like, I
take
like
away.
this so much that I want more.
Right. I just wanted more action sprinkled throughout. He was a little mopey, I felt like overall.
Yeah.
But that
Edgelord.
was Edgelord.
I mean, I never lost my wife. to
which
my
I would
best
have.
friend.
I think I would have been.
After I died and then came
I
back.
would have been a lot more okay with if there was a bit more of the badass to kind of balance that out a little bit more.
Yeah.
That was the only kind of observation I made while I was reading it. I'm
mean-
sure it's just wait, but it's like you
Yeah.
know, first
And
6
these
episodes.
first 6,
you're
yeah.
supposed to hook me on
Totally
this
get it.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that necessarily took anything away, but I
Yeah.
think I would have enjoyed it.
Did it
a
hook
lot
you
more.
though? Did it?
It did.
At end
It
of
got-
the day, it got the job done.
It got the
But
job done.
I see. I could agree with that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing with it because when you see the character, you're like, oh, fuck, heavy metal, right? But the thing I like about it, there is a little bit of a patience with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really interested in with Todd McFarlane's talking about the new film. And he's like, it's going to be a horror movie. It's not a superhero movie.
Oh.
I dig it.
And Spawn's not going to be in it prominently. And I was like,
Oh.
cool.
What?
Because I
It's
want
gonna
to
focus around Twitch.
And that's what I'm really interested in because the thing is like you do see this picture and you do get seduced to thinking like, oh, I'm going to get fucking high octane action. But then the moments that they don't. And it's like
It's really
introspective.
cerebral, actually.
Yeah, it's again they're having a cerebral conversation, and then when the action comes, the action fucking comes.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well,
We talked about the movie because you compared it to that Batman short that I love more than anything.
yeah,
Because it follows.
Crossroads.
Yeah, because it follows the detective the whole time, and Batman's only in it for like a minute and a half. But
Yeah.
it's like the most badass Batman thing I've ever seen, and I'm like, I want more of this.
Well, the 1997 movie is very like what you would. It's like almost stereotypical. Like there's fire and doves flying
Yeah.
through the fire and
John
there's
Woo.
metal.
There's
And
a
And then
John-
the
yeah,
doves
John-
die in the fire because they shouldn't do that.
Fun
No.
fact: the director's first time movie.
Was it?
Really?
Yeah.
Was he a fan of John Woo?
Maybe.
No, he's probably a fan of Spawn.
New Line Cinema presents.
But also in 1997, everyone was a fan
Yes.
of John Woo.
Yeah.
I'll have one. I actually remembered the one, and the one is I said it as like a thing I liked, but it's also a thing that I don't like at the same time.
Oh.
It's the long text blocks from news.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's just reminiscent of the time because that's actually how all comic books were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watchmen.
You couldn't get away from a comic
Yeah.
book that wasn't like that.
Watchmen.
And the thing,
Here's a novel.
it works in and out. Like Todd McFarlane, you could tell he's definitely learning how to write from these first 6 issues.
Yeah.
And then Josh, you're experiencing his growth as you go along the
Yeah.
way. Like his drawings are
These
getting
things
better.
that are qualms for me now
go away.
are they go away in later volumes where you're like, oh,
Because
okay.
he
Did
figured it
he-
out too.
Yeah.
He didn't do much writing, or you mean specifically for this character?
I don't think he did a lot of the initial writing. Like he'd be part of the writing room and also like that. He mainly was just an artist, but he wanted to tell stories.
So
Yeah.
then he did this.
Yeah, and so like
So this was his first like full on
Not
writing.
first.
Oh no, okay.
no, nothing's ever.
So just it took a while to find the voice of Spawn.
it's like
kind of
David
No,
Fincher.
he was saying it's his first full on like writing story
like
character.
this is
everything.
his character.
That's right.
Everything's
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
I was gonna say like David
Creation.
Fincher.
So
it's
you-
not his first movie, but Aliens 3 is his first directorial debut.
Right.
Like, but by no means is David Fincher a bad director.
But he can pull out all the stops now. And
That
do-
movie
Well, now,
looks
like,
beautiful.
That's why again, like you don't get to 300 by not like being shitty.
right.
Yeah.
Like Robert Kirkman, Walking Dead, couldn't get to 300 not because he was shitty, but he's like, I told the story.
Yeah.
Like I told everything I need to tell. Todd McFarlane still has story.
He
to
just
tell.
got there quicker
Yeah.
than he thought he would.
Yeah.
So
and like again, this is like issue 1 of Image. It's like this is the first one and it's going on. And like
Yeah.
again, all of Image's around has changed
Yeah.
them.
Is that
But
it
yeah,
actually?
so like that's my thing. It's like
the
seeing
wall of text.
the wall of text, but also seeing like some of the like figuring out when there's like overview world conversation versus when there's dialogue conversation. But again, that's like older comic book reading. Like when I started reading comic books, they weren't like old fashioned.
It's also a unique style.
Yeah. When I say old fashioned,
mix.
you can kind of tell like by the animation style. It's older. Like I started reading comic books like more intently like a little bit later on. My dad would get me a comic book. I wouldn't read it because I don't know how to read.
Mid 2000s-ish.
Mid 2000s, and so like by that point, details weren't as defined as even these were.
Right.
But Marvel does have a formula. Like they do like here's your block, here's your block, here's your block, here's your block. And that's it. And it's like very easy to follow along. It's like almost you could take out all the images like, oh, it's a light novel. Versus like Spawn, it's like it's highly graphic and it's like you
Yeah.
really do have to follow.
It is.
along.
It's more of a graphic novel than a comic book. To be honest.
I'll go next just because I'm kind of piggybacking on what Tom just said. It's not just like the newscasters. There's some that have just like, there's some pages that have a whole bunch of panels, but a whole bunch of text as well.
Yeah.
And like my first time through, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I'm figuring this out. Second time through, I'll be perfectly honest, I skipped through things. Like the newscasters, I was like, nope, I'm not going to read that right now.
Yeah.
It was just, there was just too much. No,
I
it was
want
just,
more Spawn.
it's, I just didn't need to read that much. It was kind of like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then some pages I'm like, okay, this is really important to the story and I'm going to read it. Like there's an
Yeah.
explanation of who Malbogia is and how he's like, what he's doing and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay. I'm gonna read through this.
To read it.
And so it's,
Well,
that
yeah,
was my
there's-
only
there's-
qualm that I was like, oh God.
Yeah. It just
Another
felt,
page of
it
exposition.
felt a
Yeah.
little cumbersome to get the knowledge rather than like.
Yeah. And really, I'm a
making it
child.
succinct.
So
No, I mean I had the same feeling with those blocks of text. I was like,
the funny thing is like
we're
we're so used to it in movies where they do that in a blip of a second.
exactly.
And it's like
Yeah.
with this, oh, you have to actually read those words.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, child, you know how to remember how to read? And it's like,
No,
oh,
I
yeah,
don't.
forgot.
No.
Thank you.
No.
I actually
Image?
forgot.
It's an Image Comics.
Image.
You
Interesting.
did it. Hey,
Um,
good job, man.
First one.
I'm
Proud.
age.
proud of you.
Close.
Caitlin,
I
qualms.
think the thing that bothered me the most was the timer. In that I kind
Yeah.
of even the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, there's like a thing with Spawn.
There's tension.
There's a tension that's supposed to be here, and then it kept coming up, and I was like, well, wait, why did the number go down that much? Like, okay,
One
all
time it
right,
didn't
and then he did
change.
something else. Yeah, it didn't change, and
Then it would change drastically.
that it would change really drastically, even though it didn't seem like he did that much. And then it was like, why are you giving me these numbers
Hey,
if you're not gonna
waking up is hard
explain
sometimes.
them?
Well, I think, and I completely understand that because if you only read this, which you did,
Right.
totally understand that.
Right.
And like from like now that I'm gone farther, I'm kind of like, oh,
No, and
Oh, okay.
like I understand that it will make sense later on. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I get that it can be it was like a really cool plot point, but I just wish that there would have been more Like it was something that built tension, but there was no urgency created with it because at the end he gets all the guns and he's like,
But they
I'm gonna
didn't-
fight without
I
the
had
stuff.
the other qualm that I had with the timer was that they didn't directly say this is what this is.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
David Barry him and I talked about. I was like, "Hey, what the fuck is up with that clock?" And then this was like years ago. He's like, "Yeah, dude. Like even hardcore fans, Spawns like me, were like, what the fuck is this, Todd?"
And then like he's like, and then he just does away with it. We're like, what the fuck? So like it's not like a intense
totally
moment,
understand.
but like it is something that a lot of readers actually had in like points to
Question.
talk
A qualm
about.
with.
That, yeah.
It was a point of contention, and it's good that it goes away, but it's still a qualm for this specific piece of
These 6
information.
I had
These 6
spoilers
comics.
for when we eventually do this episode, but I had the same kind of issue with the Doomsday Clock and Watchmen. I don't know if you've read Watchmen, but it took me like I didn't understand what the hell that was, and it took me a long time to like understand it, and I don't fully still
To
understand.
go on a
why that's
riff,
thing.
I think that's kind of an apples and oranges thing because
Really?
this is no sense of what we think what a timer should look like.
Right.
But
Oh,
with the
yeah.
Doomsday
It's almost
clock,
it's almost
clock.
like time code in film.
Yeah.
Where there's like semicolon,
no-
semicolon, It doesn't look like
well,
time.
it's like seconds
Yeah.
and then frame.
well,
Yeah.
it's single digits.
But then in Watchmen, that's a remnant of the time in the 70s when they were counting like of the danger levels between nuclear warfare.
Yeah.
And that's what that clock really supposed to mean. Like that blood drop in the eye is supposed to look like 10 minutes till midnight. That's what that's supposed to look like.
No idea.
So I'm just saying. I was like, that's why I said this, like, to my knowledge, has zero cultural reference. It's like
Right.
9999. What the fuck
What?
does that mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not even zero. It's not even 9999.
Yeah,
They
it was
just kinda
09090. Like it's
Drop
not
it
a-
in there and
right.
then just kind of arbitrarily change it up. And
And
then
you're
at
like,
the
is
end,
it saying like it's 1:35
well, it
p.m.?
follows events that happen, like when he uses his
Right,
power
right.
and whatnot. And so, but I didn't get that
I didn't
until I
pick up on
actually
that at all.
read about it, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay. So I had to go. Here's the clock. Flip a few pages. Oh, okay, there was this event. That's what drained. Okay,
right.
and just like that was just my own personal like struggle with it, where I had to like understand like
Right.
I just wish that at the end, if like they could have given a little more definition to
what it is.
At the head.
or yeah, maybe when it was initially brought up and then they actually start talking about like, oh, you only have X amount of time for this counter, then be like, it takes about
power.
X amount of power to
Drain it.
drain, and then you have X amount of like big fights that you can do.
In
and
like
that
more
kind of thing.
current comics, I don't know about Spawn specifically, but like with X-Men or anything else, you would read like if like Tony Stark is like sick and he's like dying or something like that because of whatever plot poisoning.
Palladium.
Probably vibranium poisoning.
Plot poisoning. They'll say
Palladium.
they'll say that in the beginning, and they'll say like, "Oh, blah blah blah. This happened last time, and he's getting like weaker." And then like when you see frames of him checking his arm or something like that, and then like you see something going down, you're like,
Right.
"Oh, okay. You kind of mentioned this."
Yeah.
beginning.
It gives you a
It gives you,
reference
like,
point.
one
It's a
fucking
context clue.
cracker. Like here you go. That's what you need.
And my qualm is there for the comic, but as a whole, knowing how expansive this is now, it's not really a qualm because I'm glad that it was vague.
Well-
because if they had defined it more, it would have been a very defined timeline that Spawn could have existed in.
In terms of the world that we're exposed to, like Malaboja, who the hell is this guy, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of the things that we're not exposed to, but that is the one that's like,
Yeah.
I still have no idea what the fuck this is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you won't know for like 100 issues or some shit.
Wow.
But,
Yeah.
Any other qualms before we move on?
Is that my turn?
Yeah.
I don't. Well, let me put it this way. I don't have any.
Oh.
Ah.
Huh. That's one.
See,
way
that's
of
what I was
putting
kind of like.
it.
Ah.
Yeah. No, I don't have a single qualm for this.
your facial expression
Yeah.
was just
I don't have any.
because you built up so much drama, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm ready for
Oh
this.
man.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're like, yeah, no.
So I nailed it. Is what you're trying to say.
So you're trying to be
No,
you're trying to be David Barry's best friend.
Yeah. No. Like honestly, this was like I totally understand everyone's qualms, and I it just didn't hit me in any way. Like the thing with the timer, I totally makes sense that
Yeah.
it would be nice to have some, but for me instead it drew me in. Like I was like, what the fuck is this? I want to know what this is. I want to keep reading
Yeah.
so I know. So in that sense, I'm probably just going to continue reading these.
Yeah.
Nice, very cool.
This specific one is a $60 volume one. So
Wow.
most volume ones that are the re-release are like $20. So
Cool.
find one of those. So treat this one
Actually, some of Spawn is on COMIXOLOgy.
Oh.
It's a good amount of it actually.
So just head to
Well, what I mean-
nerdon.io/comicsology.
But what I mean is that if you get COMIXOLOgy Unlimited, there's a lot of comics that you can just, and a bunch of Spawn
Yeah.
is free to like borrow. It's kind of like a library. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah,
that's
they
how
have
I
a lot
got
of free
into.
ones with Amazon Prime too. So
That's
I'm
how I
using
read
them.
it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So anyway, yeah, I loved it.
Library.
This has
Library.
definitely become probably one of my like number one reads now.
That's dope.
One of your favorite characters?
Up there, yeah, for sure. Definitely in the top 5.
Wow.
Now when you play them on Soul Calibur 2, you're like,
I'm going
fuck
back.
Yeah.
I'm going back to play
Like,
it.
fuck Heihachi and Link. All
I'm just
Spawn.
gonna hook up my Xbox again and go for it. But yeah, for sure, definitely in my top 5 characters of all time now.
Nice.
Wow.
So that leads us to the end, which
The
is the
rating.
rating.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the most votes?
Me, I think.
Ollie, then
Yeah, Ollie, then me, then Josh,
And Tom
Then
and Corey.
Tom, and Corey.
I'll go first.
you go first?
Yeah, because I already just spilt my beans on this whole thing. For me, this is like a probably like just because there's a lot of introduction, it wouldn't be like a 5 for me. I think there's once we get the character more and get deeper into it, I'll probably get higher and higher. But for me, this is like a solid for a starter, probably 4.5, 4.4, 4.5 around there.
4.5 for
Yeah, just do
Corey.
4.5. We'll do that.
4.45.
Yeah. I want to know more, and it was a lot. I appreciate the exposition for me to understand the character, but like I do agree with Ali. Like I want to see more fights now.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I want to get into it.
More
I
of his
wanna I want to take a bigger
powers.
bite.
Yeah.
I know there's more out there, so I don't want to give it like
Just
this is
wait.
a 5.
Just wait till he's getting hunted by angels.
Yeah.
There you
Okay,
go.
give me 4.4. Give me 4.4.
4.4. For me, this is for an origin story that's really well contained in this way, and you don't really need to know much about the world around it. Like it's not like any other comic book that like, oh, here's the Avengers, or here's the Justice League, and there's the villain over there.
Yeah.
It's like boom, here's this character, boom, boom, boom. All these characters kind of come organically.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this 4.7.
Wow.
I almost did that. I almost went for it.
Wow.
4.7.
Wow.
Nice. There you go.
Josh.
I am going to give this a 4.8.
Nice.
I love
Ah.
I
Very nice.
from the
Price
way
is
it
Right.
looks visually, the way that it I love the story. This is a fantastic origin.
Yeah.
So I really dig it. And I do have a little bit of like future baggage of
For
like
sure.
future series because there are things in this that I'm like, oh, okay, well that gets answered there, and so that gets answered there, and I'm like,
This is
and
like-
I keep reading, and that's what I love about Spawn is that I keep reading. I was hooked from the first issue of Volume 1. I was like, I need to know more.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
I'll give it a 4.8 because of my qualms, but they go away.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's like we're at the tip of the tip of the tip of the penis.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
They got this has like so much
Why is it?
Caitlin,
Spawn
what's your
penis.
score?
Tip hooray.
Corey just
Get out.
gained his wings.
Get out. That was great.
I'm proud of myself. I give it a 4.7.
Nice.
Wow.
Just
Copycat.
from the qualms that are contained specifically within this comic. Nothing
This
to do
particular thing.
that particular thing. I
Okay.
give it a 4.7 just because the qualmies.
Nice.
But the action figures.
Yeah, no, Tom. Ali?
So it appears that Patreon is wrong.
I'm the drunk.
No, because
Oh.
they guessed me second.
Oh yeah. They totally
They
did.
should have guessed me first.
What is it?
Because I
Because
guessed them first.
I'm a 4.2.
Oh, shit.
Ollie's the
Not by
girl.
much though.
Not by much. It's in the 4s, which it's basically my seal of approval.
Yeah.
For a comic book
That's
that
for
amazing.
anything.
by extension has Batman. I'm just kidding.
Hey,
I
you
love
got to
that-
earn it.
I love that Ollie's seal of approval is like a 4.0 plus with Ollie going,
Nerd on
It
Nation.
gets to exist. No, okay.
Nerd on Nation who's listening, you should really just copy my answers because I tend to be right about who's a grump, other than Caitlin.
Yeah.
that's fair.
I've never gotten Caitlin.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
And I do want to read more.
Cool.
Yeah.
You and me both.
More Spawn.
We'll get into it.
Nice.
More.
As
And I
Pete
want
Holmes says, get
want
into
room
it.
for higher scores.
Yeah, me too. That's why I
Nice.
did it. I was like, I could give this easily a 4.8, 4.9, but I don't know what's out there
Right.
yet. And I'm hungry for it.
Needs it.
Researching a little bit more about this, I want to gush a little bit. I want to tell this cool story of how so back in the day, remember Toys R Us?
I remember Toy Story.
I remember Toy Story too.
Remember Toys
Toys
R
R
Us?
Us is still in Canada.
Aw.
So
Jeffrey.
Toys R Us in the 90s
Coming
was
back,
the
guys.
biggest toy seller in the entire world. Walmart was coming up, but Toys R Us was still the biggest one.
Wow.
And so when Todd McFarlane was making his toys, he made models, and then he would show the mock-ups, which were like 9-10 inches, and then the actual what you would get is like a 6-7 inch toy. And he would have to explain to people and go into like conventions or markets and all that, being like, this is what we've modeled and this is what you'll get. Because a lot of people, most of the time, they would show the markup or the model like a 9-10 thing. It's like highly
Super
detailed.
detailed.
And then the fucking toy they got's garbage.
Yeah.
And then his were like highly detailed. Josh was talking about at the beginning.
Dude,
because
the
he would,
McFarlane toys are nuts.
he would
Yeah.
he was use a camera. He would take a picture of the camera, take a picture of the toy that he wanted, and then he would just draw them out and design them and like mold them. And he's like, you don't stop molding until your thing looks like the thing you want.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And so like
Dedication, man.
there's that sense of like, again, it's the Steve Jobs analogy.
Make
where
it
it's like,
sexy.
make it sexy, but also like never stop for excellence. Always
Yeah.
strive for excellence. And so when he was at this huge
think
market meeting for like toys being sold, there's all these like people who are making toys. And then like he was there with his booth and he didn't even have the toys out. He just had the boxes, cardboards, and he'd had like a drawing of the fucking thing.
Wow.
So he was like so ill prepared. And then when they're like all of a sudden the room went quiet, a door opened, and then like everyone's like just standing up, and then he's like, "Hey guys, what the hell is that?" He's like, "Todd, that's the fucking Toys R Us guy." And then he's like, "Oh shit!" And then so like the guy would just walk straight through. If he didn't stop, you weren't getting bought.
Whoa.
And so he would walk through, and then people were just like, "Oh, sad, no buy, no buy, no buy." And then the guy stops at his desk, and it's only because his assistant says, "Hey, I'm a fan of Spawn, and this is the guy I was telling you about."
And then he
Nice.
ended up saying like, "Hey, can you
Dang.
make these amount of orders?" And this was his first time selling toys.
Oh my
He
God.
made a comic book like phenomenon at first try, a movie within 5 years of his comic book. Did a TV show the same year the movie came out, and then made toys within a span of a decade.
And it was only like, shout out to that assistant who was like, this is the guy I was telling you about, because that is how things happen
Yeah.
in this industry.
We were just talking at Lex Lang how like some kid was like, "Hey, I want Oscar." Like some kid like who's related to Oscar Isaac was like, "Hey, be in this thing," and then Oscar was like, oh, "Okay, sure," because a kid
Yeah.
said so.
right.
Yeah.
You were saying, Cor?
No, I was gonna say I have a few Todd McFarlane toys, and he didn't just stick to the things he made either. Like I have an Edward Scissorhands
Oh, there's
toy that's fucking
everything.
The
phenomenal.
thing
Yeah.
McFarlane
I'll
Toys
never open it.
is not like again his properties, but it was like his standard
Yeah.
of doing toys.
Right.
And you can go to like any comic book store or any like cool figurine store and see McFarlane toys. You're like, "Can I see the McFarlane toys?" And they just have, bar none, like the best design and the best
for sure.
detail.
They had some
Wow.
cool stuff at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like it's just kind of amazing where again like he's stayed doing what he's been doing
Yeah.
for so long. And I don't know.
Hi, I'm Todd McFarlane.
All right, I'm
I
creator
thought
Spawn.
it was really interesting in this specific copy. There were like notes in between
Mm-hmm.
the different comics volumes. I don't know what you call
Issues?
them. Issues. There we go. And his note was that he wants Spawn to be that character where he already knows how Spawn ends, but he doesn't want to put out that ending until no one cares about it anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought that was a very interesting thing. And he kind of compared to Walt Disney and Mickey a little bit. How he's like, Mickey has long lived past Walt.
Yeah.
And that's what I want Spawn to be for me.
But the funny thing is, like, so when he was doing Image comic books, he would hire these new kids. Are you looking at some toys, Ollie?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I wanted to share that I have one of his Destiny.
Oh,
really?
really? Do a Destiny
Oh.
toy?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Oh, that's sexy.
Ooh.
Snap.
It's of Lord Saladin for those who are listening.
Nice.
Wow.
But when he would hire new
Salamander.
writers for Image, Marvel would end up scalping them.
Oh, really?
And they would say, like, now you have to do a contract. Like when he was doing Image, like no contract. It was like you write whenever you write, and then you leave whenever you want to leave, and you keep all your characters, but you just do it under the publishing of Image, and then Marvel would scalp them.
Wow.
And like in a weird way, again, like talking about Spawn, talking about Todd McFarlane. This is kind of like a Todd McFarlane episode a little bit.
Well, it opened up a lot of legal things that took years and years and years.
What he said is like, I never want to stop making Spawn because I want to outlive all my enemies.
Wow.
I was like, what a fucking bad. Like
What a
the thing is,
call-out.
he's so
so he makes Spawn out of spite.
spying.
Kinda.
And
Yeah,
Nope.
a little bit.
No. But you tried.
Why
so
are you
that's
writing
important.
Spawn? To piss off my enemies.
But no,
Yeah.
he wants to continue
Same
making it
Spawn
because
keeps
he has,
living.
he has story to tell, but like he wants all the things that he's worked on just continue going and all that stuff, which I'm just like, Jesus. Like
Hi,
so
I'm
good.
Todd
it's pretty cool.
It's good to have a
McFarlane. I
legacy.
want to outlive my enemies.
Nice.
Enjoy this episode. That's what Spawn does.
For your kids, man.
Yeah. You ever want to outlive your enemies and show them
Well,
up?
Al Simmons is about
Mr.
to.
Rogers, Todd McFarlane.
And I think he always says like, lock the doors, turn off your lights. We're gonna watch Spawn.
Yeah.
It's like always, guys. You got to go watch it.
It's
like
great.
so good, but it's also in 4:3 aspect ratio.
Oh,
Yes.
So you're like, oh, the bars,
Yeah.
The bars on the sides,
but
not the
it's
top
so
and bottom.
good. It's so good.
It's worth it for that alone.
Yeah.
Just for his openings.
Yeah.
Oh my god, he does the turnaround too.
He's like drawing and he turns.
Is
and
it
goes,
one of
"Oh,
those?
hey there."
Oh, hey.
Yes. But remember how R.L. Stein used to open up the Goosebump TV
Yeah.
show?
Yes.
It's just like that.
Yes.
He's in
Oh
this
my
like
God.
super fogged like room, like
Someone's
black
been vaping
walls
too
and like,
much.
everything.
It's so good. But then it starts outside, and he's like in the basement of it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's so.
That's so awesome.
It's amazing.
It's so. We're gonna watch it after this.
Okay.
Wow.
I feel
wow.
complete.
I feel complete.
I feel complete.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna play after we watch this thing.
Yeah.
Aww.
I'm excited. That's why he wore the white pants.
Well, everybody at home on that. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you, the members of the Nerd On Nation. Thank you for your support. Really, anybody that is listening or watching on YouTube, please share us with your friends, your family. If you didn't like it, share it with your enemies.
Aw.
That
Nailed
helps
it.
too. If you're new to Nerd On, check out nerdon.tv. It has all of the information about us, all the linky links. Again, COMIXOLOGY, it is new to us. Yeah, check that out, nerdon.io/COMIXOLOGY. Like I said, a little bit of the sales do go to us. Just want you to know so you're aware.
While you're getting your nerd on, we're getting our banks on.
Sure. Let's go back to the drawing board for that
Yeah,
phrase.
we'll figure that one out.
Wow.
We're just trying to keep the lights on, guys.
Yeah, we just keep growing, and it really is because of you. So thank you so much. We love you hardcore, but on that love, you know the drill. As always,
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.